The best HEMA sabre on the market? Let's find out. Hi, I'm Nick Thomas and welcome back to the Academy of Historical Fencing. So, is this truly the best sabre on the HEMA market? Now, when I say the HEMA market, by that I mean something you can actually train with, you can spar with, a multi-purpose training tool that allows you to practice military sabre. Now, am I blowing this one out of proportion? Well, I would say not. My argument is this. All things considered, what is the best sabre on the market? And when I mean all things considered, I mean price, availability, durability, how versatile it is, all of these things. And there are many, many more factors to consider. So, what exactly is this? So this is a Black Fencer 1796 infantry sabre synthetic version. It is the V5 model, which is the current one. Now, why do I say that it's necessarily so fantastic? First thing, price. So right now they're just over 70 euros with the resellers. That takes it up to just under 80 euros with a reseller like Fade Arms. You can often get them through a reseller in France, in the UK, and I know on the American market there are resellers there as well. So around the world they're fairly available. You can order them direct, but you might be able to get one straight away off the shelf from a reseller, which means that availability in most parts of the world is really good. Okay. Black Fence themselves are great in terms of service and quality, and there's not much more to be said about them. They're a fantastic company. We've been dealing with them for, I don't know, close to 10 years now. We've spent a lot of money with them, and although I do give recommendations to them in terms of specification, I don't financially benefit from them, so I don't have a vested interest in their products, aside from the fact that we want the best things available for us to use, for our members to use, and you, the audience. So on price, this really can't be beaten. The only thing that really compares to it is the Night Shop synthetic basket hilt, but you know, it's a very, very different kind of sword, different kind of product, and doesn't really compare, I would say, at all. So price, fantastic. Now, specification, it's a synthetic, and you go, oh yeah, it's a synthetic. Well, it's a synthetic that costs very little and is incredibly durable. More on that in a bit. Specification-wise, the length, the curvature, the guard type, the weight, the balance, the handling characteristics, these are all things that I gave advice on to Black Fencer. So when this sabre started as the sabre that it was actually sort of Polish sabre orientated, and we bought them when they were version 2, and from then on I started giving advice that tailored this towards being suited to British military swordsmanship and sabre, specifically in the Napoleonic era. And you're saying, oh, but I don't do British sabre, I don't do Napoleonic sabre. Keep watching, I will carry on as to why this is still a fantastic sabre no matter what you're studying. So, I moulded this product, or I should say I gave advice that moulded this product into what it is today through the V3, 4 and 5 model. Now, the V5, this was the first one ever, so when I helped with the product development, they sent me the first one as a tester, and that was 5.5 or a bit more years ago. And this gets used every session, twice a week, plus events, all the time, masses and masses of use. So I can say that we have very thoroughly tested this product line. This, the current V5 in its grey blade form, was delivered to me just over 2 years ago and gets an equal amount of abuse as this one. So over 5.5 years ago, over 2 years ago. Plenty of product use, and we've got many more of these in the club. In terms of specification, they're based on my original swords. This handles like a very good average example of a British Napoleonic era sabre, somewhere between the kind of non-regulation infantry sabres up to some of the kind of lighter officers spec 1796 light cavalry sabres. After all, this guard is based on the light cavalry sabre, although they became very popular for all sorts of officers to use, from the infantry to the navy, yeomanry, militia and all sorts. So it's kind of a generic guard. Do not mistake this for the cavalry version. The light cavalry version, which Black Fencer also makes, and is also based on originals in my collection and in museum pieces, that's a much heavier, more brutish beast and needs to be respected as such. Doesn't mean it's not worth buying, but you've got to treat it as the cavalry weapon that it is. It's bigger, heavier, hits much harder. This review is entirely about the infantry model, and is the one that I would recommend to most people. So we know that In terms of handling characteristics, this handles like the real deal. It might be plastic, but it does handle just like many original examples in my collection and in museums all around the world. We know that it's dirt cheap. In terms of durability, we have never broken one of these. Back in the V2 sabre days, when there were two-part guards, we managed to break a couple of welds where it was joined together, but that was many years ago. You know, the V5s and the V4s and even the V3s before it solved those problems many years ago. So we have never broken one of these guards, and in fact, we've never broken one of these blades. So in terms of black fencer synthetics, we've got over 300. That's a bare minimum, probably closer to 400 of them in the club. Over the years, we managed to break 2 blades, and both of them were very quick, very early on, and clearly had a production fault, and they were replaced under warranty really quickly, so no problem at all. So in terms of durability, you cannot get anything more durable than that. 2 breaks in close to 400 blades, instantly replaced under warranty. And what that means is that long term, this just keeps going. They pretty much go on forever, as opposed to your steel swords. Now, I don't actually use this that often myself. Personally, I do most of my sparring with steel training swords, but the reality is I have to loan swords out all the time. They take wear, they take abuse, and if people want to fight against me as a beginner or whatever, for example, they'll often be using a synthetic. So that's when I will use this. I will pick up this as a go-to to fight against beginners and also intermediate fencers. I'll use it in melee scenarios because synthetics are better suited to that because they're just a bit safer. Flexibility. They do flex. You have to treat these with the flexibility of a steel sword. So with these synthetic swords, they are safer than steel, there's just no doubt about it. They present less issue in terms of risk of burrs, in terms of broken blades, and they do dissipate the energy across a broader target. They don't find gaps in, say, gloves so often. They can still hit hard. You need to treat these like they have a kind of a steel level of hitting power, even though they're not quite that level. So they are a bit safer than that, but you still have got to respect them. On that note, they will fit on any glove that you want. So why is this one of the ultimate HEMA saber trainers? Well, it's realistic for the type of saber that it is. It's safer than steel, it's cheaper than steel, it's far more durable than steel, and it will keep you honest. Now, what do I mean by that? In the sabre world of HEMA, most people are used to using bowl hilt sabres, and that means they've got a huge bowl of protection around their hand, which kind of allows them to cheat to some degree. Now, why do I say cheat? Well, in terms of historical sabres, there were some sabres that were used that have bowl hilt type protection in military service, but that's usually for cavalry or very late infantry sabres. For the most part, sabres tended to have less protection than the bowl hilts that we use in HEMA today. They would have some kind of stirrup, slot hilt. They might have a 3-bar guard, for example. All of those things have significantly less protection than today's modern HEMA bowl hilts. And if you train with this, you will start to get very honest with your parries and not just basically cheating by using the massive bowl that you have for protection. But because it's synthetic and not steel, it means you're able to be honest and take these hits to the hand without crippling damage and injuries. Because if you move up to a steel version of this training sword, a stirrup as we would call it, with a steel blade, then the level of protection required for your hand does go up significantly. Whereas if you stick to the synthetic version, you can use a red dragon glove, a lacrosse glove. You can use all these kind of things quite successfully with this kind of saber. Okay, so you can use a medium level glove without the huge risks of using this kind of hilt with a steel blade. So ultimately, why is this the best overall HEMA saber trainer on the market? Because individually it isn't the best at any one particular thing, but what it does do, it represents a Napoleonic saber very well. It represents all kinds of different sabers around the world very, very well. It keeps you honest in levels of hand protection. It will fit any glove you want. It fits flat in your bag, so it's easy to store and carry. It's maintenance free. It doesn't come loose. It doesn't rust. It pretty much will never break. And so what you have here is a very cheap training tool that is actually pretty damn realistic and really fun to use and will really benefit your training. Because trust me, when you start regularly using sabers that don't have huge amounts of protection, you will learn to parry rather more correctly, shall we say, than people who always train with a massive amount of hand protection. Another huge quality that often gets overlooked is training with shorter blades. So in HEMA today, most training sabres are in the range of around about 34-inch blade length, which is around about 86 centimeters. So most of the standard ones from Regeni, Kaviten, all that lot, and pretty much every ball hilt sabre on the market is around about that blade length. But the truth is, a lot of sabres historically were shorter, and sometimes significantly shorter. So a British Napoleonic infantry sabre could be as low as 70 centimeter blade length and pushing up to about 84 at the very most. So these are 80 centimeter blade length, and for that they become incredibly maneuverable and versatile in ways that the long sabres aren't. So even if you regularly train with a ball hilt sabre, it's well worth having something a bit smaller, a bit more nimble around to actually have some fun with and practice that slightly closer range stuff. And so that is a huge advantage to you. Now, who else could this be useful to? Well, this is, believe it or not, very close to a dussac. So dussac today is so often practiced by people with synthetic or leather type dussac trainers that are really small. And it is true that sometimes small dussac trainers like that were used, but it's also true that they were training for the military dussac, and the military dussac is often the same length as this Black Fencer sabre. So if you want to do dussac, you could absolutely just grab this and use it straight away. So I've sung all the praises of the Black Fencer 1796 infantry sabre synthetic, and yes, it is truly a fantastic training tool. Are there any downsides? Well, realistically, the only factor that you could possibly come up with is it is synthetic, and it comes with the qualities of a synthetic training sword. Now that said, it's a very good synthetic. It's not particularly wobbly, it's not noodle-like, it's fairly stiff without being too stiff. Will it bounce to a degree? Yes. Okay, steel swords when they connect tend to have a kind of a stickiness to them to a certain degree. Now this is better than most because of, well, the Black Fencer development team and the materials they've used in this latest grey material is fantastic, and it has got better and better over time. Will they still have a little bit of bounce on contact? Yes. Is that a huge problem to military sabre? Not really, no, because again, we're not kind of going into complex winding actions exactly that often. It's parry riposte, so is a little bit of bounce a problem? Not really. Will you get a more realistic engagement with a steel, even from the same company? Yes, it is a downside, but remember, this is dirt cheap and way more durable than any steel trainer you will ever get. And so realistically, this sabre kind of has it all without being the best at anything. It's worth having in the bag. It gets you into sabre very cheaply and very easily without the maintenance and running costs, bulk in the bag, all these kind of factors. So it is a fantastic training tool. Even if you just wanted to kind of do sabre on the side, it is absolutely recommended. And even if you regularly practice with steel ball hilts, highly recommend it. It's an excellent training tool, not just for the fact that it's cheap and synthetic, but also gets you into using a short sabre with a small stirrup type guard. So, is it the best at any one particular thing as a sabre trainer? No, not really. This is the jack of all trades. It's cheap, it's durable, it's maintenance free, it's easy to carry, it'll go on forever, you can loan it out. There you have it. So, do I use it a huge amount myself anymore? No. Is it one of the best sabres you could have as a beginner tool or in your bag as a spare? Absolutely. So there's my recommendation. We've used hundreds of these over many, many years. They are absolutely fantastic training tools. I do recommend you get them. I also absolutely love their steel range, and I use those extensively as well, and I'll cover those again in newer reviews coming soon. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Please like and do subscribe.